Hey everyone, welcome to Sistr, another great Sistr webinar. We're just waiting for everyone to come in before we get going. But this morning's one is a great big idea one, and I've personally heard so many people have so many conversations over the last 7 months of, well, I've been doing this as a side hustle, or I've spent years thinking that maybe this might be a good business idea, and now that I'm sat at home going nowhere, but how do I start and how do I market? And I haven't got any idea how to write a business plan, and can't do it. So this webinar is very much to tell you you can do it, and anyone can do it if you put your mind to it. And we've got the amazing Katherine Gilroy, who, with tips and tricks and having spent a lot of time working at Seedrs with founders and startups, so we're able to give you that. And then we've got a total badass powerhouse of a female founder battling in a very male world of would you call it femtech, health tech? What would you call it? Oh, yeah, the founder of PZ Midstream, which is not where she started originally, work-wise, but she has kept going after years and years of doors being slammed shut, and is still going. So we will hear from her after Katherine. So I will hand over to Katherine. So go for it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. I'm just going to hopefully share my screen. So hopefully you've all got that. But yeah, look, thanks again to Emma and Sistr for having me. I'm really excited to be working on this Launch Your Business series. It's worth me saying that I absolutely love the Sistr community. I think it's brilliant. I don't think I've come across a network, actually, never mind an online network before, that has been as kind of collaborative and supportive as Sistr has been so far. And so look, if you guys are already on this call, you're already miles ahead. And so if you're thinking about launching your own thing, you're in a brilliant place to start. Small bit about me. So as Emma mentioned, I'm part of Seedrs, which is Europe's leading equity crowdfunding platform. And essentially, we help startup companies to raise investment by building out a community of investors who are also supporters and brand advocates for the business. And my role there is to scout out businesses that I think would be a good fit for our platform, and then to work with them right from the beginning of their fundraising journey to help them get ready for a crowdfunding investment round. And I'll be talking a bit more about that in tomorrow's webinar, which is on getting investment ready. So if you are around, please do check out that one. But the brilliant thing about my job is that I get to work with founders who have taken a leap of faith, and they've had a brilliant idea, and then they've backed themselves enough to make it become a reality. Even prior to joining Seedrs, I worked in corporate law, and my clients were always startups and entrepreneurs. And so I've always surrounded myself with fearless founders who are out there disrupting their industries, doing their own thing and making change. And hopefully today I'll pass on some of the tips and tricks that I've learned from them along the way. So just quickly, for those who might not be so familiar with Seedrs, we are a private equity marketplace. And what that means is that we allow startup companies to raise investment from absolutely anybody. So gone are the days of the old boys club where if you're looking for investment, you have to walk into a boardroom filled with white middle-aged men. Now you can raise investment from anybody in your network and anybody in your community. And we help businesses raise investment by allowing people to invest from £10 upwards. So it's super accessible. So we help businesses right from the beginning of their journey all the way through to the likes of Revolut, who you might have heard about. And we've had some good success with it so far. So to date, we have raised almost £1 billion worth of investment through our platform. We're hoping that we might hit that before the end of the year. That's been across over almost 1,200 investment rounds. We've helped businesses from 21 different countries. And yeah, it's going pretty well so far. And here's just a selection of some of the female founded businesses that we have raised for so far. We've got everything here from sustainable toilet roll to Japanese cuisine to coconut ice cream, the ability to own part of a wind farm, and of course, Killing Kittens there, which some of you might recognize. To date, we have funded over 200 investment rounds for female founded businesses. But if I just go back a slide and you take a look at the number of investment rounds that we've done in total, you'll see that there's an awful lot more work to be done across the industry as a whole. And personally, I would like to be in a position where we are, we're not talking about a founder's gender, but we're not quite there yet. And until we have more female founders, we need to keep having these conversations. But hopefully there are some on this call, or some future founders on this call, and hopefully we can start boosting those numbers up. Now, if you've joined this webinar, likelihood is that you are sitting on a killer idea that you think is the next big thing, or you have a passion project that you think could really take off, or you're just sick of the 9 to 5 and the corporate grind and you just want to be in control. Probably it's a combination of all of that. And I think one thing that we can agree on is that 2020 has been a bit of a shocker. It's been a bit of a rubbish year, but it's December and there is 1 month left of this year. And so if you're sitting on this webinar with that nagging idea in the back of your head that you just can't let go of, why not make this last month count and do something about it? It's 1 month, you can do something with it. Now, I love this quote. In the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity. It is all about mindset. So, I've included here some examples of businesses that I think we all know. They were all born out of a recession, and I know Giovanna can add to this list. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that some of today's biggest companies have done it, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't do it too. I mean, this year, as I said, has been difficult for a lot of people, but despite that, as Emma mentioned, I have seen so much innovation and creativity in the startup space this year. It's been absolutely brilliant. Some businesses have taken advantage of new opportunities that have cropped up this year, new opportunities that have been brought by the lockdown even, like the Cheeky Panda here, who raised investment with us over the first national lockdown. Arguably not the best time to be raising investment, but crucially, they did it during a time when you could not buy toilet roll on the shelves in UK supermarkets. And so for a sustainable bamboo toilet roll company, that actually wasn't a bad time to do it. And as you can see here, 321% funded, almost £2.5 million raised from over 1,000 individual investors. It's a brilliant result. Then there are businesses who pivoted and moved their businesses online when the lockdown shut down their bricks and mortar businesses. And then there were the thousands of new businesses that sprung out through lockdown as people were furloughed or just had more time at home. And then also, I guess, as health became people's priority, and it really started to put other things into perspective, and people started to question, their career choices or the things that they really wanted to spend their time on. There was a report that came out in July that said at that point, there were 85,000 new online businesses that had been launched in the UK between March and July alone. And that number now will be absolutely massive, because I know there's been a lot more that's happened over the summer. I've got a really brilliant example here, which is a business called The Big Night. That's a business that I worked with this year. They are a restaurant delivery business, and they helped businesses, restaurants whose doors were shut by the lockdown over the summer, but those who didn't necessarily want to work with the likes of Deliveroo or Uber Eats because it didn't really fit with their brand. And Big Night helped those restaurants get their food out to their customers at a time when they couldn't do it themselves. In their first 12 weeks, they reached over 4,000 customers across London. And the reason why I wanted to highlight this one is because this idea was thought of, created, launched all during lockdown, and then they went on to raise 273% of their investment target with us from nearly 300 investors, which is an exceptional result for any business, but particularly for one that was born out of, if we're being honest, the devastation of the hospitality industry. But I know that can seem easier said than done. Taking a business from an idea to a reality can seem like a really daunting thing, and quite often people will be sitting thinking, well, how do I start? Where do I start? Where do I go with this? But there are 8 things that every single business that I have worked with over the years has either done or asked themselves, and most of them are really simple. And I'm going to let you into those today, and so hopefully you'll see that it's not as scary as it seems. So the first one, why? Ask yourself why. This seems really simple, but it's really crucial that you think about it. I speak to entrepreneurs every day. And one of the first things that I ask them is always why. Your why is really important. It's going to be the thing that keeps you going on the days that you question why you started, and those days will happen. Starting a business isn't easy, and so your passion and your motivation has to be there. So if you figure that out from the start, that will really help you as you go through. Why do you want to launch your own business? Do you just want to work with yourself? Do you want to change the world? And I think, either one of those is perfectly legitimate, but we need to figure out which one it is. And then once you've got that, why this business? Have you seen a problem that needs fixing? Have you experienced something painful? Do you want to create something that people will love? There's a female-founded business that's currently raising.
Where's she gone? Is she frozen for everyone?
Yeah, it's frozen. She's frozen for me.
She's back in.
Oh, she's back.
She's back in the game.
Got myself off mid-flow. Sorry, let me just share my screen again. Bear with me. Technical difficulties. Must be the morning. Yeah, hope you got that again. Yes. So so Lu, I don't know if I got cut off then, but I was just talking about Luot, which is the sustainable kind of zero water toilet company that has launched because they have a huge why. They really want to create change in something that they see as a huge problem around the world. Another business that I'm working with is a business called Sistrs. They are a femtech brand. They make sustainable period care products. They founded that business because they became aware of the sheer amount of waste and chemicals and plastic that typically goes into period care products, that most people don't know about this. And these are products that we put inside our bodies, and they just knew that there was a better alternative, and so that's why they set up Sistrs. If you look outside of the Seedrs portfolio, there's companies like Spanx that I think you probably all know of. That idea was born when Sarah Blakely was getting ready for a night out, couldn't find the underwear she was looking for, and so she decided to cut up a pair of tights she had, and voila, you have Spanx. Also a brilliant why. So I just would urge you to spend some time thinking about yours, figure out what your why is, and then hold on to it, because you're going to need it later on down the line. So once you've figured that out, it's time to start the work. So research, super important. Ask anybody and anyone that you know what they think of your idea. Would they buy it? Would they use it? Would they recommend it? And then crucially, make sure that you listen to that feedback. And if everybody tells you that it sounds 100% perfect, then challenge them on it. Turns out, chances are they're lying, they're just being nice to you. You really want to understand if this idea has got legs. And then take a look at who else is out there doing something similar. If nobody else is doing it, then why not? Are you genuinely the first one to market, or has someone else tried this and it hasn't worked? And if so, what went wrong? If someone else is already doing it, then do you know how to do it better? What's worked well for them? What hasn't gone so well? And the aim of this process is to establish if there is a market for your idea, and then to help you really hone in and decide what you want to build and how you're going to do it. And in honesty, what you're trying to do at this point is figure out if your big idea is really as big as you thought it was. Then once you've figured this out, you need to think about who your target market is. So figure out what your ideal customer looks like, and then go and find them, speak to them, and ask them the same questions that I mentioned earlier. Would they buy it? Would they use it? Would they recommend it? And then go back to that all important question, why or why not? To build a solid foundation for your business, you need to understand who your target audience is. And the reason for that is fairly obvious, but you can't and you shouldn't try and sell your product or your services to absolutely everybody. So you want to identify an audience that is the sweet spot for your product, and then you'll know who you're trying to sell to, and you can really focus on that moving forward. So once you've started your research, you want to get it down on paper, and this is the business plan. This is a task that an awful lot of entrepreneurs put off when they are starting out, but it's really important that you put your business idea down on paper. And a lot of founders have actually told me that it's at this point that their business starts to feel real. You know, you will have mapped it out, you'll have a tangible action plan, and it's no longer something you're just thinking about, it's something that you can see and visualize. And, you know, there's a lot of different and kind of conflicting views about what a business plan is and, you know, what you should put into it. But I think that the best way to think about it is to treat your business plan like you would do an itinerary for a road trip. So you don't want it to be overly detailed, but it also shouldn't be too simplistic either, otherwise you'll just lose your way. So don't spend too long on your business plan because they can become outdated pretty quickly. Things are going to be moving at 100 miles an hour when you're starting your business. But it's important that you create one. So your first business plan can be pretty basic. And I think there are only 5 things really that your first business plan should cover. And that's your objective and your mission, how you're going to achieve that, where you want to take the business, so what's the end goal, and then what's the business potential, so what does the market look like, and what's your competition. And that's it. And you can fill in the details as the business progresses, but at least now you have a rough plan and you know how to get started. So once you've got that down on paper, the next thing to think about is what don't you know? Now, I hate to break it to you, but nobody is brilliant at everything. And as an entrepreneur, particularly, you're going to have to wear so many different hats as you get going that you need to figure out where your time is best spent. So figure out what you're good at, know your strengths, but then crucially think about what you don't know and then find ways to plug that gap. So to begin with, you're probably not going to have the funds to start hiring people and bringing on staff to help you, but perhaps you know someone who has complementary skills. Maybe you're launching your business with a co-founder. Maybe you have friends and professional contacts who might be willing to lend you some of their time. I know that the Sistr community is full of brilliant people who are willing to offer their time. So take advantage of these networks because they're really invaluable. Maybe think about taking on advisors. These are people who have a ton of strategic skills and experience that you want to lean on, but you don't need them day to day. And to be honest, you can't afford them day to day. When I'm speaking to businesses from an investment perspective, I put a lot of value on their team and their experience. And the reason for that is because when a business is at an early stage, really what you're investing in is the team and their ability and you trusting them to deliver on what they say they're going to do. So when you're just getting started, you can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't have the right team and expertise behind it, then you're always going to find it difficult. So figure out what you're good at, understand what you don't know, and then find people to help you. And once you've got your team nailed, it's time to start building your community. And community is so important for so many different reasons. And so I always say that you should be baking this into your business from day one. So start with your personal network. Find a community of people who are going to support you when you need that peer network around you. Anyone who started their own business will be able to tell you that at times it can feel like a lonely journey. You know, you can't moan to your colleagues about the rubbish things that happened that day, or how annoying your boss is when you are your own boss. And so, you know, make sure you have people around you that you can lean on. And again, luckily you're all part of Sistr, and so that should be easy, but make sure you're using those networks that are around you. Then start thinking about building out your business community. So build out a social media following, build up a newsletter list, engage your customer base or your potential customer base. Your early followers and your early adopters are really important. And if they are part of the business from day one, then they will be there with you to support you as you grow. Plus, you know, on the days when you do feel a little bit lonely, you know you have this group of people around you who love what you're building, and they're there to cheer you on and lift you up when things feel a little bit tough. And, you know, if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we can all do with a little bit more of that. So the more you can get in your personal life and your business life in that respect, then that will put you in a much better position. A really good example of this is a business called Livia's, which is a plant-based snacks brand, who again raised investment with us earlier this summer. Since day one of her business, Livia has worked on building her community. And the reason that her community is super engaged is because she's been updating them and basically lifting the hood on her business since day one. And so what it meant is that, you know, they've been part of the journey from the beginning, and so they felt like they were part of it. So when she came to raise investment and gave them the opportunity to actually own a part of it, they were all ready and waiting, and they couldn't wait to jump in. She ended up bringing 1,400 people together in that investment round, which is such a good result, but she wouldn't have been able to do it if she hadn't been working on her community from the beginning. So build out that community and keep them engaged from day one. The next step, get your house in order. This step is less exciting, but it's also important. When I was a lawyer, I used to say to clients that being prepared always costs less. And that sounds a bit cheesy, but it's true. This will mean different things to every business, but it can be as simple as make sure you're choosing the right business structure. If you're an e-commerce business, make sure you have a website that looks good and it works. If you're dependent on one key supplier, make sure you've got documents in place to protect that relationship. Before you go ahead and build a brand and really get wedded and committed to it, make sure you've picked a name that you can protect going forwards as you grow. So yeah, get your house in order, get organized, get your paperwork in place, and you know, you might not enjoy it at the time, but you really will thank yourself for it later. Next, test and adapt. There's a quote that says that if you are not embarrassed by the first version of your product, then you've launched too late. You can spend years planning, researching, preparing, thinking about launching your business, but at some point you just have to get on and do it. And yes, the first version won't be perfect. There will be things that go wrong. There'll be things that people don't like. There'll be things that you don't like. And you know, some parts of the business will fail, but that is okay. And in fact, it's absolutely normal. If you don't do that, you don't just get on and do it, you know, you can't learn, you can't improve, and you can't grow. This can be something that can be quite difficult to take when you've put so much time and energy and love into launching your business. You know, sometimes people feel like you hear people talking about their business like it's their baby. But if you prepare to fail and you're not totally wedded to the first version of your business, you'll be able to take those learnings and then turn them into successes. And that's what's going to help you be one of the businesses that makes it. And that brings me quite nicely to my last point, which is at some point, you've just got to go for it. Lots of people have great business ideas, but only a small percentage of those actually follow through with them. So, you know, don't let perfectionism or fear of failure put you off from actually doing it. If you follow these steps, if you're methodical and you take small steps along the way, you're going to set yourself up for success. And I've spoken a couple of times about failure, but there will be so many wins along the way. So make sure you take the time to celebrate them as well. Focus on continuously improving your product and service, be flexible. And most importantly, one thing that I wanted to get across today is that there will never be a perfect time to do this. So, you know, take what's happened this year as a bit of a kick up the arse, and use this last month to get on with it so you can move into 2021 focusing on bigger and better things, and things that are gonna hit the right boxes for you and make you wake up in the morning feeling like you can't wait to get started, rather than, you know, sinking into your coffee and wondering, well, gosh, I've got to get through another 9 to 5 today. And yeah, there's quite simple things on my list there, but I think if you work through all of those, you'll put yourself in a really good spot. So yeah, that's my insight.
Thank you very much. There's a few questions that actually I'll throw your way, Catherine, but Giovanna, you might have an opinion on some of them, because a lot of people always say, well, how am I going to get investment? Who do I speak to about getting investment before they've even put pen to paper? And you know, people think that's real. You know what I mean? They look at that and think, well, I'm going to need about 200 grand, so there's no point. What's the point? What's your advice on that? Someone said about to know investors and give you a view as to whether your idea has legs. What's the best? Giovanna.
I went out, I got seed funding from the LDA. So first of all, look to see if there are any publicly funded innovation grants or funding schemes that you can apply for. But after that, I would email everyone I knew to say, I'm doing this. This is an opportunity. You can invest anything from 10 grand. And I raised about 4 million quid doing that because friends who would invest would then pass it on to their friends. And so you kind of get this rather sort of pyramid type investment model going on with people who know you, who trust you, and who are enthusiastic about what you do. I mean, now we're trying to raise, we're raising 2 million quid, and actually, Catherine, I think I need to talk to you about that.
Absolutely.
We're scaling up because we've pivoted during COVID. But yeah, I would go to friends and family first. And as long as they understand that they're taking a risk, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you have to have something in whatever you send them in a deck or business plan, which they will still have to see, that explains that they might lose their money. Now, if they're still prepared to take a punt on you, then great, because, you know, I like the fact that I've got lots of friends and family who I might help financially. I will help financially when we exit. I think that's very egalitarian and democratic, and I love it.
Yeah. What do you think, Catherine?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the point you made about people thinking, well, why do I even get started, because I need 200 grand and I don't know where to get that from. I think you can start small. There are lots of organizations and things out there that will help people get off the ground, whether it's kind of startup loans, accelerator programs. There's a whole ecosystem that is there to help encourage innovation and people who want to do their own thing. And whether that is people are going to be able to offer support, or whether they're going to be able to open out doors to get you the cash that you need in order to get going, then just talk to as many people. And yes, as Giovanna mentioned, like, friends and family are really important. With crowdfunding, we rely on that quite a lot. You can put £10 in even to support. If you've got enough people putting relatively small amounts of money in, then that will help you get going. But as I say, you don't need to start really big right to begin with. You can start small, establish the idea, figure out that this is actually going to work and it's something that you want to do, and then you can then look at kind of launching that even further and figuring out what resources you need and where that money is going to come from.
Yeah, because that leads on actually to the next person about and I remember having this problem when we were raising at the beginning, of whether you go it alone and get some big investors in, or whether you go down the Seedrs route. And I remember we spent about 5 months going, and it didn't, and I went and pitched, and I was told I needed this perfect pitch to these city guys, and it just didn't fit right. And it was when we went, right, actually we've got a massive community. This is the KK side of things. We have a huge community and a huge brand loyalty and advocates, and I wanted everyone to be able to feel part of it, and even if they gave a tenner. And that's when we went Seedrs. And as soon as we made that decision, it felt right. I was like, this weight, I was sleeping better, this weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I went, it just fits. So what's your advice on that? Because we've had a lot of people come to me going, well, how did you decide to go down the crowd route rather than the big investment route? And someone's looking to raise 250 grand US dollars and wondering whether to go by Seedrs type or yeah.
I think it really depends on the business. If the business has a community, then absolutely going down the crowdfunding route through a platform like Seedrs is the way to do it. As you say, it's when you're toying up the options of, do we go and raise investment from angels or institutional investors, or can we engage our customer base and our followers and really help our community and have them be part of it? Sometimes I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest, particularly if you are a community-based business. And then I also think, what are you trying to get out of your investment round? Are you just looking for the money and that's it? Are you looking for someone who's going to be actively involved in the day-to-day running of the business? Do you want someone who wants to come in and sit on your board and take some of the control away from the business? Or are you looking to, as I say, work on that engagement piece, create a marketing splash, and have the people who mean something to the business be a part of it as well and help it to grow. I think it's worth thinking about crowdfunding also as a way to pool together all of your resources. So you don't necessarily need to think about it as, do I just want to raise from here or do I want to raise from there? But if you think about why crowdfunding was set up in the first place, it was to democratize the world of private investment. I mentioned earlier the concept of the old boys club, and you'd have a boardroom that was full of kind of pale, male and stale. I think it's the kind of the perception that comes up about investors. This is a way to really kind of like shatter through that. And what it means is that it opens up investment opportunities to people who, you know, might not have those traditional investors in their network in the first place, or those that don't necessarily want to take their money. And so, yeah, I just think about what you're trying to achieve through your investment round, and then hopefully it will make sense from there.
Sorry, just looking at the chat about most people I don't have friends with 10 grand in, but it's all relative, and it's like, I know Giovanna, you needed a lot, you'll tell us in a minute your story, you needed a lot more of an amount. I remember when I launched 15 years ago, I didn't, and it was just sort of an event with a little small website. I probably needed about 2 grand to actually get the business off the ground. So it, you know what I mean, it's very hard to do this kind of webinar now. Is sort of a general, but all businesses are so different, with some needing 500,000, some needed a fiver to get it going. So it's, that could be a tenner off friends, it could be 100 quid off contacts if you need a grand. So I remember getting a grand off someone. That was the only investment I took in, like right at the beginning, off a friend, which to me at the time was absolutely massive and was game changing, because it allowed me to get a basic kind of community forum website built, which back then was very basic. But that's all I needed, and at the time it was a huge amount of money. But without it, I couldn't have done what I've done. So it is very relative, that amount, I think. And you've got to really, I think people, what I've come across is a lot of people still launching businesses, and it's not greedy, think they actually need more than they actually do. And a lot of people go, well, I need 5 grand because I need 3 grand a month to live off and pay my bills. And it's always surprising how little you actually, when you really go down to the line, what you need to survive, and how you make it work. And I remember having some part-time jobs when I was first launching, just to pay the rent. And you just, if you really believe in something and you're passionate about something, and every bone in your body is telling you that this is important and you need to be doing this, then you will find a way to make it work financially, without sitting there going, well, I can't do anything until there's 10 grand in my bank account. You've just got to have that grit, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that goes back to the point I was kind of making earlier about figuring out what your why is. If you're not really solid on that, you don't have something that is, really kind of has lit a fire in your belly, then when you're having to find ways to make ends meet, or just to get from A to B, because there sometimes will be times where you feel like that. If you haven't got that drive and that that grit, then you're gonna, likely you're going to give up. So if what you're doing is something that you love, then it's going to make life a whole lot easier for you.
What's your advice, if anyone else got any questions throw in chat, but what's your advice? Because another thing I know people often ask is, well, I haven't got a business plan, I need a massive, an amazing business plan put together to do it. What's your advice on that to start out? Because it just seems like such a massive step for so many people, and like, where do they start?
Yeah, I think sometimes there can be too much of an emphasis put on a business plan, but it is important that you have something, because if you don't, you don't have a map, you don't have a plan to follow out. And I just think, if you, particularly when you're starting out, if you're starting right from scratch, if you just nail down the basics of what you're trying to achieve with the business, then that will help you out. So I mentioned earlier kind of like 5 things that business plan should cover. You can spend months writing a business plan. They can be hundreds of pages long, with really detailed forecasts and things that are based on all kinds of assumptions that are just going to fall down the minute you start to actually do anything. So I think try to take the pressure off yourself with it. And if you just keep it simple to begin with, then at least you've got a framework to work from, and then you can pad it out and go much more granular as the business starts to grow and as you move through the different phases at the start.
Yeah, and actually tomorrow's webinar is a bit more investment ready, isn't it? And then Friday we've got one with Julia, who's amazing, who runs Enter the Arena, and she's very much, all she does is help female founders get investment ready and get business plans sorted. So if you want more, and all the webinars will go up, so this will go up on YouTube. So and if you can't make tomorrow's and Fridays, they'll also go up on the Sistr YouTube channels, so you can catch up with them, which are the much more sort of investment side of things. I use Live Plan as a first draft framework. Have you come across that?
Yeah, quite a lot of people use that. It really, as I say, yeah, provides a framework, keeps things, takes some of the, I guess, the mechanics and the nuts and bolts out of the business plan. So you know, you've got a template, you know where to start. Yeah, there are a couple of tools out there like that. So if you're looking for some kind of assistance from that side of things, then use them. But honestly, I would just say don't overcomplicate it to begin with. Yeah,
and don't try and make it perfect, because there's never going to be the perfect time. You just got to do it. Exactly. Which, do you know what, well, that brings us on to Giovanna. I'm going to hand over to you, because you've constantly evolving and tweaking, and it's still not perfect, and you're still, you're still finding the perfect kind of model for what you do. But I'll hand you over, and you tell us.
Thank you very much.
Tell us the story.
Screen share. If this works. Here we go. Can everybody see this? View full screen. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, all good.
Good, okay. So, well, thank you very much for asking me to do this. I'm going to talk to you a bit about my career trajectory rather than what I'm doing now, which is where we'll end up. Because I started doing this at a very young age. And first of all, I was fortunate or not enough to go to convent boarding school from the age of 9. And what I realised much later on is that having spent my teenage years with nuns and no visible men at school apart from the groundsman, I saw that women can do anything, because these nuns were lawyers, accountants, mathematicians, professional women who'd chosen their particular way of life. Now, if you take the God bit out of it, I just saw women who did what they wanted to do without any recourse to men. And then I would go home in the school holidays, and my mother would struggle to get dinner on the table, on time for my father. And I kind of thought, that's a bit odd. Here's liberation when it doesn't look like liberation, and there's an old woman going about her daily life, and it's kind of not really her choice. So feminism started for me with nuns. When I left school, I didn't really study very much at school. I climbed out of windows a lot, and I wanted then to go and do business studies, and my father wouldn't let me do that because he didn't think I was clever enough. So I got sent off to secretarial college. And I went to this secretarial college that was very smart and very nice, and I didn't really want to do it. And I sat at the back of the class in my rah-rah skirt with my spiky hair and fishnets. And this woman walked in like Moneypenny and said, "You are not here to learn how to be secretaries. You are here to learn how to be the sorts of women without whom businesses fold. Do you understand?" And I thought, now that's interesting. That's a lot better than what I thought this was going to be. It's not just shorthand typing. So I worked very, very hard, and actually for the first time ever left with top results at everything. I then went back home and I applied for some jobs, and I was interviewed by this guy, Peter Goodcoop his name was, at an insurance company, and I was 19 at this point, and he sat there with his feet on the desk and interviewed me. And one thing my parents always said to me is, make sure that people treat you with respect. Just always, because that's what you deserve. Everyone deserves that. And I went home and I thought, I'm not working for him. I didn't like him. He had his feet at his desk. He didn't really treat me with very much respect. So when the agency rang and offered me the job, I said, no, I don't want it. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I don't like the fact he interviewed me with his feet at his desk. He doesn't really give a shit. So they rang back the next day and said, he'll interview you again. And he did. And he was utterly charming. And he said, you're absolutely right. I shouldn't have done that. I'm the director of this firm. I should have treated you with greater respect. And I got the job, and we got on famously. So this was kind of a pivotal moment when I thought, I kind of realised unwittingly that you need to make sure that people treat you with respect, don't put up with anything less. I then, after I left the insurance company, went to Thames Television. I moved to London, and I got a job working on various programmes, which was really interesting because I learnt how to edit in the editing suite. I learnt about research. I learned about all sorts of things. because it was an environment where they let me get involved with the program making. Anyway, then I decided I wanted to do some research. My boss said to me, you know, you're very bright, you should go on and be a researcher. I applied for this job as a researcher in the children's department. And this woman rang me up, she was called Sue, and she said, Giovanna, I'm not even processing your application. And I said, why not? Because you're a secretary, this is a researcher's job. And I put the phone down and burst into tears, and my boss came out and said, what's the matter? And I saw this woman, Sue, won't process my application because I'm a secretary. And he went, are you joking? She was my secretary 5 years ago. So that was a glass ceiling that I hadn't really expected. And I decided that I wasn't staying in a big company because I would be stuck as a secretary, and I moved and I went to work for a little exhibition company where I met my husband, got married, and this was the 1990 recession. And he managed rather haplessly to lose our house. We lost everything, absolutely everything. And when Ali was a month old, he rang me and said, it's all gone. We have to sell our house. We have to go and find somewhere to rent, and you're going to have to work. Now, I'd wanted to be a stay-at-home mum, so I just thought, what do I do here then? Right, I better, you know, shape up. And I rang all the people that I had worked with in the exhibition industry, which is where I went after Thames Television. And I said, so this is to the point of starting your business. I mean, I didn't do a business plan or anything. I literally just got on the phone. I thought, what can I do? I know the exhibition industry. I know how to do direct mail. I know how to do floor plans. I know how to set up features. I know it really well because I got stuck in. So I rang all the people I knew and said, if I set up an exhibition support services business, will you give me work? And they all said yes. So that's how I started my first consultancy, if you like. And that was great fun. And I didn't really, I kind of have a vague idea about what I could do, but I did end up doing all these support things for various of the people I knew, to the extent that when the first BBC Good Food show happened, 6 weeks before, they rang me and said, look, we've just realised we've got no fresh food in this exhibition. And I said, oh, okay. So I rang the National Farmers Union, I set up some features, I got fresh food in there, you know, like that. So it's a matter of problem solving. You learn to problem solve, and I thoroughly enjoy that. And I'm quite good at it. So as this is when I was doing some exhibition work, I went into BBC Worldwide and had this meeting, and I had my child actually in a car seat, and the director of BBC Worldwide turned around and said, what's that? And I said, well, that's my baby and she needs feeding in 45 minutes. So can we get on with the meeting, please? And they all looked absolutely horrified, but what could they do? I was there, I had my presentation to do, and I did it very well. And it was absolutely fine. I did that for 3 years for them. But in those days, there wasn't that much health and safety. And my kids used to come to the exhibition halls with me and everything. But, you know, they used to come to the office. This is another problem solving thing. So once I was getting involved with features, Food from Britain asked me if I would set up, design and manage their demonstration kitchens for them all around the world, which I did. And we got to Tokyo, and a lot of our demonstrations were based on the products that the British food companies had on those stands. And in this particular year, it was beef, because British beef is very popular in Tokyo. And as we unpacked all the freight as it came in, I looked at the freight guys and I said, where's the beef? And they said, no beef, because in the interim, while it was shipping out to Tokyo, BSE came up. So all the beef was impounded and we had nothing to show. And my chef went a bit bananas, you know, what are we going to do? And I said, hang on a minute. So this is another seizing an opportunity, problem solving. I went round our stands and I came back with a whole pile of pork sausages and whiskey. And I said, right, we're going to flambe the sausages in whiskey and tell everyone that this is the big thing in London right now. And he said, but it isn't. And I said, well, no one knows that. And that's all we've got. So that's what we did. And it was a huge success. And all the sausage companies got massive orders, as did the Scotch companies. And actually, if you're ever stuck with anything to do and you've got a bit of Scotch in the house, flambe your sausages in whiskey, because it's really delicious. They're caramelized and they're great. So then this was this is when I realized that you can talk to anyone about anything if you have a problem. And I introduced contemporary British furniture to the British furniture export market to Japan, because we were selling a lot of Chesterfields and reproduction furniture. And I had in the meantime become involved with the Contemporary Furniture Show in London. And so the DTI subsidised me to take a bunch of group of contemporary furniture designers to Tokyo. And they said, well, we need someone to launch it. And I said, well, the Conran shop's opening in Tokyo. So why don't we see if Terence Conran can come out and launch our contemporary first thing to the buyers? And lo and behold, he said yes. So I did some PR around it, and I got it into the design press in the UK, and and then a week before, 10 days before, the DCI, it's now the DIT, then DCI rang and said, Terence isn't coming. I said, why not? And they said, well, he doesn't want to fly Virgin. We don't know why, but he won't fly Virgin. He will only fly BA. And Virgin had done us a really good deal on first class flights for everybody. And so I said, well, look, can you leave this with me for 24 hours? So I got on the phone, I tracked down Richard Branson's PA, and I said, I have a problem, but actually it's your problem. Terence Conran won't fly on your airlines. And she went, why not? And I said, I don't know, but I'm doing this thing and it's going to be a disaster if he doesn't come, because I've had it got in the press. And what are we going to do? She said, leave this with me. So in the interim, I didn't know what happened, but I got a call at the end of the day saying it's all fine. I think you'll find Terence is going to come. And what had happened behind the scenes is that Branson was trying to get hold of Conran, couldn't, rang him at home, found his number through a mutual friend, and said, what's the problem with my airline? I mean, I'm really glad I wasn't there. Anyway, various people said to me that I would get bollocked by Terence Conran, but on the contrary, when I met him in Tokyo, he marched up to me and said, so you're the fiery Forte. I've done the same in your shoes. It's good to be here. So, I was, 29, 30. I didn't know these people, but I managed to pull something off that I just did it without thinking. So the message there is be brave, sort your problems out, and don't be frightened of asking anyone anything, because everyone is the same as you, ultimately. Then after that, I started going into PR. People were asking me increasingly to do PR for them. So I dumped the exhibition side of things because it was high turnover but low profit. And I went into PR and spent quite a lot of time in the French House. I had a little office in Soho. It was quite fabby days. And that was great fun as well. So I ended up, through the contemporary furniture angle, focusing on architecture and design, and I loved it. It was fascinating, it was interesting. I worked for environmental engineers, structural engineers, architects, and did their PR and got to know the industry very, very well, which was great fun. And then we had the urethra moment. My brother, who's an NHS GP, rang me up one day and said, Giovanna, I keep getting women coming into my surgery with a urinary tract infection. I thought I'd treat it with antibiotics. Something's going wrong. And I went, well, what are you telling me for? I've got no idea about this. And he said, well, I think the specimen's contaminated. And they keep complaining to me about wetting their hands when they're giving me a sample. And I said, oh, make something. Because he was kind of boffin, and when we were children, he was always playing with his chemistry sets. Anyway, he did. He made a little funnel that won an innovation award very early days, and he asked me to help him. And I looked at it and I thought, do you know what? This is genius. This is absolutely great. And so for a couple of years, I said I would help him, and we looked at the market, and he and I put money into design and patents and what have you, because I had managed to put some money aside with my PR business. And so we started to develop it. I rang various urology product manufacturers and said, we've got this idea, are you interested in licensing? And they all said, no, we have our own ideas, thank you very much. So after about 4 years of this, I said, Vincent, why don't we just do it ourselves? Let's get some money in and do it ourselves, which is when we applied to the London Development Agency for seed funding. It was matched angel funding. And that was when I rang various friends and family to see if they would help match the 75 grand that we were getting from the LDA. And a lot of them did. So that was how we got our first funding there. And then it sort of began in earnest. We've raised money. We've had problems with vultures. I've been very naive and I've learned a lot. People have been trying to get the company from under my feet without paying for it. We've had investors who said they would put in loans while they did their due diligence, and then they have demanded the loan back, and when we didn't have the money to give them the loan back, they've issued winding up orders. We've had all sorts of things. It's been an absolute nightmare. I've lost a lot of sleep over the last few years, but this is my company with my brother and our other shareholders, and no one is going to do that. So basically the product is Peasy. This is the third iteration that uses a standard universal container and the tube. And we've been doing this for 16 years now. So I do have a kind of NHS brick wall across my forehead. It takes an average of 17 years to introduce an innovation to the NHS, and we're just about there. But we are now selling to the NHS. We've just had approval for national scale up from their innovation arm. We're selling in the States, and we're developing other products. But in the meantime, this is a device that treats urinary tract infection and will screen women antenatal urine screening right first time. It's proven to reduce antibiotic prescribing. It reduces false positives. In Wales, it will save 66% on laboratory spend for GP surgeries, and it reduces false positive results by 70%, which means women are not getting antibiotics they don't need, because with things that they stand with unreliable urine tests, women are basically on the front line of antimicrobial resistance, which is not where we want to be. Now, during COVID, sales fell off a cliff, obviously, because no one was going to their GP surgery. And we sat and thought, well, what are we going to do now? I know, let's speak to some industry mates and see what we can do. And I rang a guy called Luke, who is CEO of a company called Testcard. And they're launching over the next few weeks. They have a digital test strip. And I said, how about getting together and doing a home urine test? So that the idea is that you ring your GP, whether you present with a urinary tract infection or you're pregnant, and the midwife of the GP can press a button. This kit is then sent to the patient. She pees into the Peasy, gets her accurate midstream, and then digital test strip goes in, and they can the app will turn the phone into a clinical grade reader, and then they can send the results straight to the GP or the patient record or midwife, and they can get treated accordingly. So it's meeting all the new diagnostic ambitions for the NHS, which is obviously to reduce face-to-face visits and footfall in GP surgeries. This is a whole new pivot, and this is why we need to make, raise more money now to develop this, because it's going to be quite expensive with regulatory work, changes to our tooling and so forth. So this is another example of looking at as Katherine said earlier, out of every crisis comes an opportunity. And this is the kind of thing that I really wanted to do a long time back. But because of the investment needed to change what we're doing and change the presentation of it, I mean, I don't know if this will be known to anyone, it goes from a class 1 device, which is non-invasive, into an in vitro diagnostic device. So there's a lot of work to be done around there. And I've had to learn all this, by the way, over the last 16 years. I've had to learn about manufacture, about tooling, about patents, about regulatory issues. And because I love it, because I know this is a really bloody good thing to do, and it will save lives, it will save women from antibiotics they don't need. It means, you don't have to get your hands dirty. At the moment, how much the NHS spent on the clean your hands campaigns, and yet they're asking women to pee all over theirs to give them a sample from which they're not likely to get diagnosed. It's bonkers. So we sort out all sorts of problems. And my midstream, I think, is something that everyone will much prefer using. So I've gone from being a one-man band to conducting an orchestra with no formal training, just experience and a hard head and thick skin. Which is kind of what you need in this world. But I have gone from PA to PR, and this is what happened when the R fell off. Now, these are my daughters who have had to put up with a working mum all their lives, one who thought she was going to be a stay-at-home mum, and they both have their own businesses. When I spelt aromatherapy wrong. Yeah, Alessandra went to university and has a degree, first-class degree, but has retrained as an aromatherapist and is doing that. And Georgia wanted to be a baker from the age of 10. And because they have a mother who just launches in and does it, because I don't see why I can't, and I don't see why anyone can't do exactly what they want. They've done what they want. And I'm quite keen on sort of, the message is that we need to pay forward to the next generation of women that you can do anything. You know, we're not victims, we're not a minority, we're not part of a sort of diverse agenda. We're more than 50% of the population. And we need to understand that better, and the next generation needs to understand that. And then we're going to take over the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I told you she was a hard ass. Trailblazing hard ass. But that is a lot of what Katherine says, is, you know, how many people have ideas. I hear it all the time when you're out, and, you know, friends say, oh, this is just launched. I had that idea about 5 years ago. But the difference is they've done it. They've put that one foot in front of the other, and they have got out there, and they have done it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, my brother, you know, when he invented Peasy, he wouldn't have been able to do it, but because I'd run business and I wasn't scared of doing that. I remember being at an exhibition, and this urologist came along and picked Peasy up and went, well, I could have designed that. I've had ideas, you know, and I haven't been able to take them to market. And I looked at him and I said, find yourself a sister.
Nice. Amy had a question that she put in, sorry, and we missed it the first time round, about, I'm similar on that, in that when you've got an idea and then you see someone launch something similar, what's both of your advice on that, on going for it? Because, you know, there's so many things out there, there's always going to be people with similar, or what if you see that, what would your advice be to I'm not sure, Amy, what your business idea is.
I would have a look at how big the market is. How big is the market? Is there room for more than one of whatever it is? And if there is, and you're passionate about it, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely the same. We see this all the time across so many different industries where there are competitors. There are more than one player in a space. It doesn't mean that everybody else has sat back and gone, oh, well, someone else is already doing it, I can't do it too. And it's just a case of what makes you different, what makes you better. And yes, as Giovanna said, is there a market there for everybody? And then how are you going to go out and attack that market and take it for yourself? I wouldn't be scared by someone else being there. You just need to be able to be better.
And that's, I mean, like Sistr, for example, when we were, you know, looking at launch it, there was, you know, we're swamped with female networking setups and platforms and events, and so it would have been easy to go, well, why would we want to launch something in a space where there's thousands? Every day I get emails from different female networking events stuff, but you've just got to believe in what you want to do in it and what is making you slightly different. Like for us with Sistr, it was the all-inclusive part. It was not targeting a specific industry. It was not targeting women of a certain level professional wise. It was targeting all females, from whether you're leaving school at 16 through to however old, of every nationality, every profession, because our belief is that everyone can offer something to anyone. So I can learn a lot off a 16-year-old who's just at college. She probably knows stuff that I don't know and I could learn. And that for us at Sistr, that's what the core is that we want to make different from a lot of the other. So it's kind of, and we sat there for months trying to look at, well, why are we different?
Also, I'm just thinking, you know, when we launched Peasy, a lot of people said to us, it's not necessary, no one needs it. And actually, it's because it amazes me, it's taken a secretary from Hove to point out that actually this is an entirely overlooked area of diagnostic medicine. You have really strict protocols around blood collection, but not urine, and yet they have diagnostic parity. And it's only now, after lobbying and campaigning, that people are beginning to say, oh, actually, yeah, it's a problem. You know, when a quarter of the samples are contaminated, yes, it's a problem. But because urine is cheap and easy to collect, that people think nothing about doing it again. So, you know, even though I was told again and again, this is not necessary, it's not needed, you just look at the facts and you analyze what's going on in that area, and you know you're right.
Yeah, if people like reading, I've read 2 great books, and one I've read about 5 times in the last 4 years. It's called Mission. There's one called Mission, and these big corporate PR guys who've worked with everyone from Airbnb to presidents and they wrote the book of what makes the best, in that even though the industries are all different, were the people founding, all the founders and the people at the top have very similar characteristics of how they've got there and what drives them every day. And it's a very good one to read, because you'll read it and go, well, actually I can do that, and I think like that, and so you're on the right track. And the other one I've read in lockdown is called Rebel Ideas. That's a really good one, very relevant to starting a business and innovation. And it's got a lot of examples, like, you know, the suitcase, the guys that made the suitcase with wheels on, who got, you know, sent back all the time, going, why would anyone want suitcases with wheels on? And when you look at it now, it's like, I wouldn't go with hand luggage unless I could wheel it. I don't want to do my shoulder or my back in.
Yeah.
So it yeah, those two are great books if people read and want to be inspired to get out there and do it. Does anyone have any specific questions for what they're trying to do, to throw out? Or we can join people into this chat, so if someone wants to ask specifically, then
But also, if anyone wants to get in touch about anything privately, I'm very happy to, you know, have conversations.
Yeah, and likewise, I mean, the kind of my day job is businesses that are ready to raise investment, but I'm always keen to talk to people who are not quite there yet and who are just starting out. And plus, if you want connections with other people in the kind of the startup space, if you're looking for accelerators or just other networks that can help you get going, then I'm sure I'll be able to help. So do feel free to reach out afterwards.
We do our 10 a.m. coffee morning chats, sister coffee morning chats on a Thursday. Catherine's been in quite a few, where we talk about, last week was random, it was chickens to something else, I can't remember what. But also business ideas, and there's a lot of people, women in those coffee morning chats who are SEO experts or PRs, or so if you are thinking of doing so, just come and join that. It's 10 a.m. tomorrow, free again, a Zoom thing, and you can just throw out ideas and you'll get a whole lot of women in different industries who can give you advice. So yeah, but if anyone doesn't have any ideas, then we'll end it there, and everyone will get the tip sheets from this, and this will be up on YouTube if you want to watch it again. And yeah, anyone got any more questions, or just leave you to it?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giovanna.
Thanks so much.
Perfect. Cool. See you later.